outcry over Elon Musk is increasing, and it is not just coming from his perhaps traditional critics or the Democratic opposition. There are concerns by people who are in the Trump administration and have certain agenda ideas, and others who just think the federal government has to be run with a certain amount of transparency and accuracy over the long run, that see what Elon Musk is doing, and you've probably seen some of these reports over the week, as very concerning. We can show you the scene outside the U.S. Treasury, where Musk and allies are trying to seize what is described as sensitive or even potentially legally classified information, the sensitive payment system. Democrats speaking out.
When we open up the Senate every single morning, we don't pledge allegiance to the billionaires. We don't pledge allegiance to Elon Musk. We don't pledge allegiance to the creepy 22-year-olds working for Elon Musk. We pledge allegiance to the United States of America.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing. We will rally. We will power a movement all across this country. Elon Musk wants power, and we will fight back.
You could see that there today, and it's a reminder that politics, governing, news, as we all live through it and share it together, it evolves in real time. And so it might not have been obvious when Donald Trump did win by 1.5 points in November that within the first month of his term, some of this round of resistance or opposition or concern wouldn't just be about Donald Trump, the person, but about a very rich, foreign-born billionaire who is exerting so much control. Substantively, you can say the Democrats and others are concerned about this. Politically, you can see from these visuals, they may think they have an opening. And Musk is going beyond Treasury. He wants to change how the federal government is staffed. And while it has become pretty popular to beat up on bureaucrats and government, when you look at recent events, when you look at your safety and security, from airports to food safety, these are not departments that most people think should just be gutted down to zero or be run by partisan hacks. So we have seen this effort to go after the entire USAID agency, to gut regulations, which, again, are written by Congress, both parties, bipartisan, over certain things where there is agreement. But now Elon Musk says he wants to just override that. There are stunning attempts to basically control levers of power in a way that we haven't seen past presidents or cabinet officers do. And remember, Elon Musk has decided he wants to hide, that he doesn't want to play by the rules, that he doesn't want to go through the basic, not very onerous, but basic transparency and ethics requirements that every other member of the cabinet does. Only he knows that. Only he knows why he wants to be so secret. The Times reports that a Trump official says Musk operates with a level of autonomy that almost no one can control. White House staff, again, these are Trump people, say they've found themselves in the dark, that Musk basically acts first, acts in secret, and lets Trump and his aides, these are presidential-level people, sort of deal with it. The Washington Post reports on a memo to federal workers, which just announces layoffs will be likely unless more people quit. Well, that raises the question, if you have so much power over those layoffs, why are you negotiating with thousands of unnamed bureaucrats that you're constantly trashing? Why don't you just do it? Again, there's a balance here. Some of this is very significant. We've reported on that. Other parts of it involve Musk and Trumpian shows and bullying and efforts to see what they can simply get away with. We should mention thousands, an estimated 20,000, are accepting the buyout offers. So again, this is a very real thing. Musk also getting scrutiny in headlines for calls to gut regulations, which does sound pretty hyperbolic. And again, someone saying this, they could be a politician or like what he is, an advisor, a kind of a special employee. But someone just saying this doesn't make it true. We all have enough experience around these things to understand that, although they do want, as I said, to strategically use uncertainty, fear, and chaos to achieve that which they otherwise might not.
I think we need to go in and do wholesale removal of regulations. Like, regulations basically should be default gone. Default gone, not default there, default gone. And if it turns out that we missed the mark on a regulation, we always add it back in. These regulations are added willy-nilly all the time. So we just got to do wholesale spring cleaning of regulation and get the government off the backs of everyday Americans so people can get things done.
That is the statement. Now, I've told you before, Elon Musk is effective at many things, including accumulating capital for himself. And he's also had some businesses that have had some real breakthrough developments. But remember, those are in areas where he devoted many years of his life. He works famously long hours, long schedules, to learn and act, and was tested by the market. What he's doing now is the opposite. He's entering an area that he knows very little about, that he's spent very little time inside of, and making grand statements which, again, he may think that they have a purpose or that they shake things up or they're disruptive, but they also reveal him as relatively uninformed about how this works. For example, what businesses do and try involves the market, and sometimes many businesses, as you probably know, their stocks go up and down. Some of them fail. Some of them go out of business. That's not the model for any viable government, let alone the United States government, a superpower that leads the global economy, that has nuclear weapons. You can't just trash all the rules that have ever been developed, putting aside even the fact that that's not allowed. I don't think the Supreme Court would allow it in the long run. But even as a thought experiment, you don't just trash every rule that's ever been made for how you run the Pentagon or USAID or federal workers or classified issues or the threats they face from abroad. You don't just trash all that and then say, if it doesn't work, if it fails, we'll bring it back and we'll replace it. The point here is that he is clearly speaking about something that he knows so little about, he doesn't realize things he's saying that make him sound so ignorant. And that's not just a political point. This is why even Trump officials are perhaps afraid of him and doing it in what they call blind quotes, anonymously telling the papers about the risk. Now, the White House is trying to protect Musk from being held accountable. Keep that in mind, because his background is not in getting you money or getting you a raise or doing anything for the American public in any public service sense. His background is accruing money for himself. And he doesn't want to play by the rules of even the other cabinet members, very top people. Some of them are also billionaires. Some of them have left their companies to do this work. Not Musk. He has basically arranged a loophole where he is a, quote, special government employee. We don't know at this hour exactly what that means and how much compliance he's done with background checks or other things that are designed to protect you, the taxpayer, and the United States. His allies now say that he wants to use experimental AI as a key part of governing. The Times reports those AI tools would mostly be used to try to cut the budget, which raises the question, and we've been very open to tech on this program. There's a lot of interesting AI. We've had some AI engineers on this show. But if you elect all these humans to govern you, why would you want to just hand the keys to a billionaire known mostly for self-enrichment and AI tools, which, again, he makes money from? He's been involved in multiple AI businesses. Why would you want them to make these decisions instead of humans? And if it sounds a little odd that I have to say that as a newscaster here in 2025, well, I guess that's where we are. Meanwhile, workers are going to sue here the Treasury Department over the way that Musk has apparently been granted access to their payment system. Musk allies are saying things that could get themselves in trouble. Look at this headline about the interim U.S. attorney in Washington, who has his own set of controversies, saying something that I could just tell you we don't have any evidence to think this is valid, but I will show you what he says, quote, legal action against anyone who impedes Musk's work. That U.S. attorney, Ed Martin, has been affiliated with conspiracy theories and false statements, including going to a Stop the Steal rally on the eve of the Jan 6 insurrection. And we don't, at least at this hour, have any evidence, any material that would suggest why you would indict a person, even if they do have a fight with Musk. And by the way, if he's the bigger fish and you have a fight with him in the government, say you don't want to give him access to various materials that typically you wouldn't give to what is basically a private citizen with a relationship with the president, you could get fired for that. You might get legally fired. In other words, you could sue over that and not get reinstated. That stuff happens. But the idea that you would be indicted and threatened with jail time as the current nonpartisan, valid government employee going up against the outside billionaire, well, we just don't have any information that suggests that's possible. The courts, of course, would have to deal with it if such an indictment were made. It is possible that Musk and his allies are just saying this stuff to, again, scare people. It's also possible that they might try to abuse DOJ and FBI powers. We've covered that story, and if that happens, it will be up to the courts and the American people to weigh in on what's happening with prosecutorial powers. Musk has his own statements and standards where he's talked about how the government should operate.
I think the strong bias with respect to government information should be to make it available to the public. Like it should be, let's be as transparent as possible. like fully transparent.
As transparent as possible is a sentence. It has meaning. Words still have meaning these days. To be as transparent as possible, he would have to follow the transparency rules he's currently breaking for other cabinet members, for other officials. As possible would presumably mean going above and beyond that and saying, well, you're so rich and you're so successful and you're saying you're in a different life stage and people should trust you. You should publicize other things. For example, how much exactly has he made off these crypto promotion schemes he's done where he's using your tax dollars and government resources and websites to promote a crypto that I'm not going to name it here because I'm not joining in his PR campaign, but I will refer to the fact that he's doing that. Why don't you tell us how much money you've made off that and how much more crypto you're holding and when you plan to sell it? Those are the type of things that are required for a lot of people, even in private commerce, like CEOs and people who have equity in businesses. And that brings us full circle. Do you know why they have to say that? Why we learn when different people buy and sell big equity stocks that they own? It's because of this thing called regulations. Regulations and rules, while not perfect and sometimes, yes, frustratingly slow, these are the rules that have passed through a process, usually through both parties in Congress and the different elected president, signed into law to protect you. And isn't it funny that the very loud, very rich, very self-involved billionaire wants all those kind of rules just canceled?